Let's look at the outline for a problem solution essay. Remember that for this particular style of essay, a position must be taken, but first a problem must be proved, because right over your shoulder is somebody who says, no, I don't think that's a problem. So you have to prove in a problem solution essay that a problem exists. Now, once again, I followed the directions from the tutorial on setting up an outline in Word. And I have typed in the word outline, and I wrote my thesis statement, and I typed in the first Roman numeral, and then I went up here to define the multi-level list, and I did that, and so now I'm ready to write the outline. Again, we're not doing any topics that have to do with social media or anything like that, so I felt like I could just demonstrate this particular problem solution essay. So let's say that this is my thesis. With an estimated 32% of Texas children under the age of 2 showing signs of cell phone addiction, of 2 possible solutions, parent liability and state-controlled access to phones, legal parent accountability seems the most effective solution. So I've told the reader that I'm going to be proving that there is a problem with cell phones with Texas children, and see how I've narrowed my focus. I'm not talking about all the children in all the world, because I can't do that in one essay. I am talking about a focused population of children and a focused demographic of the age 1 to 24 months. Right? Okay. And the reader knows that I'm going to be discussing I'm going to prove that there's a problem, and then I'm going to be discussing 2 possible solutions, 1 and 2. And then I'm going to determine and create my position on which of those solutions I believe is the most effective. Now, my introduction contains sentences that show the reader where we're going to be going. Not long details, because that's going to be detailed in the essay. But I start with a few statements about the problem that I'm going to be proving exists. And then I'm going to be discussing in a couple of sentences the actual demographic that I will be dealing with. I can't talk about all people and everybody in the world. That's too much. I'm talking about one specific demographic. And then I'm going to quote a source that gives some validity to my position, gives some validity to the existence of the problem. And then I'm going to select an image that I think best expresses the problem that I believe and am proving exists. Then I show, well, if there's a problem, so what? The reader says. Now, in one sentence or 2 sentences, I'm going to explain what the effects of that problem are. And then I'm going to, in a couple of sentences, write what the possible solutions are. And now I'm going to write my thesis statement, because, as you can see in these earlier sentences, I've already discussed that there's a problem and that of the 2 solutions, and the reader knows which way I'm going to be leaning. Now I'm going to transition to the definition section. Transition sentences are a prerequisite skill. If you're not clear on transition sentences, you can go to find a tutorial on writing transition sentences, or refresh your memory on how a transition sentence is written. But remember, it's the last sentence of every section. So, the definition section, you got a lot to prove. First, we have to prove what an addiction is. I can say it's kind of a little bit of a problem, I can say whatever, but I've used a big word. I used the word addiction. So, this definition section is where I define my terms. And I've got to find facts from legitimate sources that define what my terms are. And those are the terms that I used in my thesis sentence. I used addiction, specifically addiction to cell phones. All right, so that means I've got to prove it. All right, now I say what proof exists that cell phones fit this definitions. And now I have to have facts that show that this, and this are actual examples of this definition. And then I will hopefully have found some good statistics about how many Texas toddlers are given cell phones from the age of 1 to 24 months. And I'm going to have to find those facts, and that may or may not be easy, but I've got to find somebody or some source that gives me facts about a percentage of Texas toddlers that are using cell phones between 1 and 24 months of age. And then I'm going to find facts that show what behaviors that percentage of toddlers demonstrate, because I'm all building up here to that there's a problem. There's no fallacy in my logic here. With those behaviors, a match of the definition of addictive behavior, and I have to explain that. Then I say, well, who sees this as a problem? Some people may say this isn't a problem, that's no big deal. And so I have to have some psychologists and some other people who indicate that this is indeed a problem. And once I've done that, I've defined my terms about what I mean by this and what I mean by that, and this therefore qualifies. Now I've established that there's a problem. And for that problem, there needs to be a solution. So I'm going to be discussing two possible solutions, and I transition to solution number one. And I've outlined what this formula would be. What is the proposed solution? Who agrees with it? What actions would be proposed? And how would you do? What does that mean? That the police are arresting? What's going on there? And what would be the benefits of this solution? And what would be the problems of enforcing this solution? And what do professionals say would be the effect on Texas? Whoops. Remember, I got to keep my demographic. Age 1 to 24 months. So now I have explored this possible solution in a formula. And I repeat the same formula all throughout the essay. If I was showing 3 solutions, I would still use the same formula. Define what that is, who agrees with that, what actions have been proposed, how in the world would you implement those actions, who would benefit, what would be the problems, and what do professionals say. It's going to be the same formula all through the outline. So now I come up with the next proposed solution, and that's the same exact formula. After I have proposed those 2 possible solutions, so far I have a research paper, don't I? I've researched some possibilities, I've talked with some experts, and I've talked with folks on both sides of the aisle on this issue, and so far I have a research paper. Now here's where this becomes a position paper and an argument essay, and that is where I discuss my evaluation and how I think the solution would be most effectively expressed. Yes, that's where it becomes a position paper. When I have finished this is going to be a couple paragraphs here, and again, these sections are sections, they are not paragraphs, so you can see that these will be divided up into several different paragraphs, each one of these sections. Now I come to the conclusion, which is 1 paragraph, and if all I submit is the word conclusion, there will be points deducted. The conclusion is the hardest part of the essay to write, because I always think, my gosh, I've already said everything. What do I have to say? How can I get out of this essay? So as I researched, I saved little nuggets to put into the conclusion. So now I saved one of my facts that were one of my proving facts, that the cell addictive process is a fact. And then I've showed an addictive state is detrimental to the growth, because that's the problem. And I saved this, even though I mentioned it back up in the essay, I saved this as bringing home the conclusion in a sense of urgency that something needs to be done, or these Texas toddlers aged 1 to 24 months are going to have some problems in the developmental area of brain-hand coordination and world recognition. And then I'm saying that these facts make need for clear action. And of the many possibilities to this issue, the one course of action that I find most likely to show success is whatever it is that I have decided. Now I'm going to show you how I do this outline when you follow the format that the tutorial showed. So now the last thing is going to be, I'll pause this a second while I type this in. So I'm going to conclude my essay with a statement from a philosopher, a child expert. It can be Socrates, it can be Dr. somebody from the professional world. And that statement is going to emphasize my position, because I've evaluated the other positions, and this is the way I think would be the most effective. And all along the way, I will have indicated in my outline where I'm going to put an image. What I like to do myself is just actually paste the image into the outline. That way, when the whole outline is completed, I can scroll down and see where did I put images, where is an image needed, and I can go find the images that I need to indicate my solution. That is the outline for a problem solution essay.